What is happening? What is happening, mediocre people of YouTube? Oh, God, you know, I feel like I do these videos, and let me just check how I'm doing here. See if you guys should be able to see me okay. You know, I feel like I do these videos where I really want to be talking about music and guitar stuff, related stuff, and stuff like that, but as I've scrolled through YouTube lately, you know, I notice the few people that are. I've noticed some people have missed the bus here, and this is regarding politics as a whole. Because here's the rub, okay? Until we start electing regular middle-class people to hold office, nothing's going to change, okay? Things are going to be basically the same as they have been for, you know, quite some time now. I think it really got bad probably during the Obama administration. You know, politicians these days just do not relate to regular middle-class people. They don't. In no way, shape, or form, which is also why I'm for term limits, because, you know, the thing about, you know, holding office for, you know, decades upon decades is that, you know, you're more likely to become a corrupt politician. You're more likely to, you know, you're more likely to take the kickbacks and the payoffs, to vote a certain way, to endorse a certain policy. So there's some people out there that are missing the bus. There's people out there that are they're still very shell-shocked from Trump, from President Trump. They're shell-shocked, and now they've got Grandpa to come give them a hug and hold them tight and give them some solid advice, except the problem is that Grandpa has dementia, and he shitted himself, you know. You know, when we had President Trump, you know, he was not a middle-class person by a long shot. What he had going for him was some common sense that the middle class could relate to. During his short 4 years, you know, he was trying to do some things to help people, you know, start a business, you know, do something, you know, with your life. The promise in this country is that if you work hard, you get somewhere, you know. You start working, and you know, maybe you buy your first car, and then maybe you buy a starter house of some sort, and then, you know, you decide to have a family, maybe have a couple of kids, and you upgrade to a larger home, and that's the way it is in the United States. Is, you know, your life, you, me, all of us, you know, a big part of our lives here in the United States is a business. It is the business of running your life, you know, running that business, your life. Okay, now whether it is, you know, you choose to work for someone else or you choose to open a business on your own, if you work hard, you're going to get somewhere. You know, and then you mix that into, you know, we've got policies where, you know, on the left, I'm talking about here, if you subscribe to the left, you know, you've got policies that are enabling people to collect Social Security and as well as disability benefits, and they've never worked a day in their life. Like, how does that even happen, right? Me, who gets a statement once a year from Social Security to tell me how much I'll get because I've been putting into it since I was 16 years old. And then at the same time, they tell me when my turn comes to collect Social Security, it might not be there because we've enacted policies where people who don't deserve it or haven't paid into it ever are collecting. And the disability that's a separate issue, but you don't have to look much further than one of the major cities in America, and I'll use Detroit because that's where I'm at. The disability system has been abused for decades upon decades, and that's why people who actually need disability usually can't get everything they need, and that's fucked up. And I personally know people who, legitimately quadriplegic people who deserve to be cared for, deserve disability benefits, and they get them, but they don't get everything they need because you've got other people abusing the system. Kind of getting off track here. So, the way I see it, and the way I've been saying this for probably a couple of decades now, that until we start electing regular middle class people to office, there's really nothing to talk about, because the people who are holding office currently cannot relate to you and I. I'm happy to save on the coffee that I bought, save 50 cents on it. These people, they don't even know where their coffee comes from. All they know is they get me a coffee and it's there. They don't know how much it costs or anything. And I think that a lot of you who subscribe to leftist views, Democrat, liberal views, I think a lot of you will find that if you really look at your life, the majority of the decisions you make in your life are pretty conservative, because you're running that business, the business of your life, and what it takes to run that business. It's difficult. I'm sure that most of my subscribers, if not all, are pretty much middle class people, and we've all been there where we lived on ramen noodles and Kraft macaroni and cheese. That's what we had to do in order to be able to pay our rent, and we kept going, and little by little, you get more and more, and that's how it works here in the United States. You don't just get to I'm hungry, so I'm going to apply for these benefits, and then next thing you know, you've got $1,000 in food stamps or whatever they call it now. I don't think it's probably on a card now. And you've never worked a day in your life. That's not fair. You guys are always talking about, I'm talking about leftists, liberals, Democrats, you guys are always talking about things being fair and things being equal. That's certainly not fair. So I think a lot of you who subscribe to the Democrat, liberal, leftist views, if you really look at your life, you'll find that, the majority of the decisions you make in your life are quite conservative. It's in the name. And I do not identify as a Republican. I do not identify as a Democrat. I identify as myself, DetroitWrecker, as a person. And there's Republican views that I agree with, there's Democrat views that I agree with, and there's on both sides views that I disagree with. People want to classify you, so a lot of people would classify me as a conservative or a Republican, because that's some of the ways the media has made things for people. If you speak any of these truths, the media classifies you as a conservative or a Republican, so then a lot of you guys do the same. I do not classify myself. I really pride myself on being a true independent. If you were to go by what the media tells you today, you would say that I lean conservative. But regardless of all that, I think a lot of the people who voted for Biden they're still shell shocked because we had a man, President Trump. We had him in office, and he was speaking these basic truths. And like they say, sometimes the truth hurts. But at the same time, he was speaking these truths because he wanted to see people succeed. Out of all the fuckery that came from President Trump, I really do believe that he's the type of person that wants to see people succeed. Even if you were to go back to before he was president, when he had that show called The Apprentice, that was a show about somebody coming from nothing and making something of themselves. President Trump surely did not come from nothing, but he did make something of himself, regardless of where he came from. But there's many of us out here and floating around in YouTube land who could tell you stories about how they came from absolutely nothing and now they're a multi-millionaire. And it was because they decided to do something, whatever it was. Usually working for the other guy doesn't get you, the kind of money you want to make. A wise man told me years and years ago, Mr. Ray Scully, said, you're never going to make the kind of money that you want to make working for the other guy. And the thing of it is you live here in the United States, that's what you do here. You open a business, It's very difficult on the little guy here in the United States because people want cheap products regardless of where they come from. And, that's another whole other video. But getting back to, I think people are still shell-shocked because, we had President Trump speaking these truths and for a lot of people those truths were hard to grasp or they were difficult to hear, and they needed a hug or they wanted some type of advice from Grandpa. And I'm all for advice from Grandpa because I had a fantastic grandfather who was full of advice. Thankfully, he never got to the point where he was, my grandfather was never to the point where he presented himself where he didn't know where he was coming and going, But Joe Biden obviously, has some cognitive issues, and I'm not knocking the guy. I feel terrible for him. But, if he were in his right mind, he would understand how weak he is making the United States look by being our president. And there are countries out there that are jockeying for position, always have been, but there are countries out there that are much more powerful than they used to be, and they are jockeying for position. These are, in fact, the type of countries that would love to see the United States fall on its ass. They don't have our best interest in mind. The products that you guys are buying off of Amazon that come from China, you're buying from a country who does not have our best interest in mind. And hey, I do it too. But what I have started doing in the last couple of years is that if I have to buy a Chinese-made product, I'll at least try to buy it from a USA seller. Okay, meaning somebody else bought the product from China and then they're selling it, usually at a little bit higher price, but I don't mind paying a higher price if I know I'm helping an American business owner to sell his product. Ideally, I don't want to buy Chinese-made products. I don't want to buy products that are made anywhere else except in the USA. But they've made that pretty much impossible these days. For all the wonderful things the internet has done for us, it's also done a lot of damage. So, getting back to those of you who are very shell-shocked and you still, you're happy that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are in office because you needed that hug and you needed somebody to tell you everything was going to be okay. You guys need to understand that these people are lying to you. Everything is not going to be okay. The only way things are going to be okay is if you do something to make them okay. That's just the truth. That's the way it is. Things are not going to be okay unless you do something about it. And that doesn't mean getting on Social Security disability benefits that you don't deserve. That means getting off your ass and doing something to help yourself. So, the message today is elect regular middle class people to office. People say, how do you do that? You can't do it because the people who are currently running for office has millions and millions of dollars. Fine. But if we get everyone all over the country to start insisting on candidates from the middle class running, from the little bitty township office, the little bitty city office, your local government, your state government, and we insist on it, it will happen, because these people will be able to raise money as well. So I really think if you guys are this concerned with government, how it's being run, or the lack thereof, you need to consider this message that, it's what I believe is that the only way things are going to change is if we elect regular middle class people. And I hope this message just takes off and it's all over Twitter and it's all over everywhere, because that's what we need to do in order to take our country back. We need people who, are making between $40,000 and $80,000 a year. And we need those people to start running for office and getting elected to those offices, because those people are coming from a different world than the current administration, all the way down the line. You have very few senators, congressmen, governors, mayors, very few that come from a regular middle class background. If we could do that, I think we'd be on the road to changing a lot very quickly. So elect regular middle class people. Now I'm going to get to the 800-pound elephant in the room, which is what's behind me. These are my plants for this season. This one is really big, and this came from seed. I can't remember what this is. It could be grease monkey. One of these is these over here. These are right on track for this time of year. They are right where they should be. The last 2 years when I've grown, my plants have been about this side. These two came from clones. One of them is Granddaddy Perp, and the other one is Green Crack, or they could both be Green Crack. I'm not sure, because I had 3 of them and I lost one. And when I lost that one, I planted petunias instead. But this guy here is just gigantic. This could very well be a 3-pound plant this year. It's this is according to the pictures from the last couple of years that I've taken, my plants have not reached, I don't think any of my plants have reached this height, but certainly my plants were at their very biggest in September and October. End of August they were getting tall like this, and this guy is, where are we, July 19th today, and this guy is like bigger than bigger than any of my plants have ever been. So that's where we're at with that. Whatever you do, elect regular middle class people to run for office. Get regular middle class people to run for office, then elect middle class people to run for office. These are the only people that are going to be able to represent your views as a majority middle class person in the United States. God bless you, everybody. We will see you next time. Peace.